Hello, and welcome to the Everyday Business Problems Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Crysler. Each episode, we talk to business leaders and subject matter experts to learn about the challenges they've overcome and the challenges they still face. You'll hear fresh insights, real talk, and get inspiration to grow your business. Hey everybody, and thanks for joining me on another solo episode of the Everyday Business Problems Podcast. Today, I want to dive into the best business mapping tools. First and foremost, I think the thing that we need to unpack with this is what are the different types of business mappings available? And the two probably far and away most popular ones are process mapping and also value stream mapping. And the big difference between the two of them is that they are looking at your business through a different lens. So I like to think of your process mapping as a visual representation at a more detailed level. What makes this a little challenging is the fact that process mapping, you can have a high level kind of process flow overview. That could be from, front door to back door. That could be specifically within a particular department or work center or work cell, right? So that's what makes it a little confusing, but there is also value stream mapping, which again is at a very high 50,000 foot view of your business. This is taking a look at your customer, supplier, how do we deliver value between those two things, right? Inbound from your supplier, expectations from your client or customer, and then how do we work that through the value chain to ultimately deliver the product or service back to your paying customer or client. The value stream mapping typically is a bit more complex. There are specific symbols that get used for value stream mapping. And with both value stream mapping and process mapping, you can have a current state and future state. So that is the other kind of layer to unpack with business mapping tools, right? So just to recap, we've got process mapping, value stream mapping, we've got current state, we've got future state. So you can have different levels, if you will, of both your process mapping and value stream mapping. But again, typically one business is going to have a specific value stream per product or per service. You could look at it from that perspective. And again, same thing on the process mapping standpoint. So that's kind of a very high level overview in terms of what types of mappings are available to be done for your business. So don't get those confused. Don't get the two of them intertwined with each other because they serve different purposes. And again, what I find, just generally speaking, whether it's from other thought leaders or experts, or with people just doing this type of stuff, they often intertwine all of these words and techniques, and they really are set out for specific purposes. So I typically don't get too far, too hung up about that type of thing. But it does kind of drive me crazy when people, try to use a particular tool for, the wrong thing, right? And the best example I can give to you of that is, if we're trying to improve something very specific, let's say something quality related, maybe within a specific touch point or, series of touch points, I would much prefer to map that out from a process map perspective than I would a value stream map perspective, right? What I like to use a value stream map for is, let's say, like I've got a client right now that we did both current state and future state value stream maps for two of their different product lines. And the reason that we did that was because we're working on a throughput project with them, right? So that's a great example of wanting to look at the, 50,000 foot view of all of the different touch points that we're adding value for that particular product line, so we can understand, what's the impact, what's that touch point, and then we can look for opportunities within that maybe we need to take a deeper dive and say, let's map out this process, this specific part of the process, or this specific touch point, so we can better understand what happens within that, and then ultimately see if there's some opportunities to, optimize that particular process, that process flow, create or optimize a system within that. All of those different things, right? So a lot of nuance to this stuff, but I think it's really important to talk about that at a high level as we're talking about business mapping tools. Because again, if you've heard me talk about any of this stuff, another thing that drives me nuts is when people are suggesting that use specific tools kind of before you understand what the problem is, right? So there's no shortage of tools available. It's more so like, what's the right tool for the job, right? Like, sure, you can pound a nail in with the end of a screwdriver, right? But is that as effective as using a hammer or a sledgehammer, right? Like, no, probably not. So that's what we need to understand when it comes to business mapping tools. As we're kind of diving into specific software, specific thoughts around that, I've got a specific video that I created a while ago that walks you through the entire process of process mapping. And so that's a great resource. I'll make sure to tag that where you can easily access that. It's literally a step-by-step walkthrough of how I like to do process mapping. And when it comes to specific tools, this is a case where what you have works best. And sometimes that's literally pen, paper. Sometimes that's sticky notes and, Sharpies and a blank wall. That's some of my favorite process mapping activities that we do, or tools that we can use. There's also a plethora of softwares available, specific purpose-built tools. A couple of my favorites that handle both process mapping and value stream mapping is Lucidchart. That's probably my go-to, I would say. I really love the flexibility and kind of collaborative, access that it gives, if you will. Seems to really work well for the work that I'm doing and for my clients. Another one, if you're on the or in the Microsoft ecosystem, is Visio. And again, depending on the level of detail that you need and what you want to try to accomplish with it, there's different plans for Visio. So both cost-wise about the same, like $10, give or take. At the time of this recording, $10 give or take per month per user for either one of those two options. There's also a bunch of other tools that you can find in the marketplace in terms of, things that people like. ClickUp or even Canva, is another one. There's a bunch of other, depending on if you're mapping, even like some kind of workflow, more on the process mapping side, but more workflow related. There's a solution called Pipefy that is out there as well. So again, don't get caught up on the tool as much as what is underneath that, right? Like, what are we trying to do? Why are we trying to document this particular process or value stream? What ultimately are we working towards from an improvement perspective? Again, I used that earlier. I talked about a specific, quality initiative that we wanted to try to unpack. But again, you can use this to improve service levels. If you're a service-based organization, creating a value stream map to understand like what are the touch points from, client onboarding through, service delivery, right? That would be a great example and opportunity to use a value stream map. And again, you can do value stream maps very easily, pen and paper. As a starting point, honestly, like I love that. I love technology, but sometimes finding the appropriate software or tool to execute something that ultimately is relatively complex. A value stream map looks very simple, looks very pictorial. But it is a bit more complex than your kind of typical process mapping. So again, I do want to say that big fan of just using pen, paper, legal pad, whatever, to kind of give yourself a starting point from that value stream map. You can always go and recreate it in a more collaborative environment using one of the specific tools that I called out there. But again, starting with just something simple and something you have access to generally is the best solution that I've found. So kind of as we start to wind this down, some of the common questions that I get asked, I think I've covered a couple of these, the difference between process mapping and value stream mapping. Again, just as a recap, value stream mapping, 50,000 foot view of a specific product or service delivery, capturing, data transfer from, client to order entry, supplier inputs, all the value added touch points throughout the production or fulfillment part of the process, and then the return back to the paying customer or client. Process mapping, similar from the standpoint of different foot views, if you will, of particular processes. So at its highest level, you could capture an entire process flow, kind of front door to back door. One thing I didn't talk about earlier that I should mention when it comes to process mapping in the kind of 30,000, the 50,000 foot view, what you'll tend to find in those process maps are what people refer to as swim lanes. And what the swim lanes are is literally just a breakdown of each, kind of key department or work center, work cell, touch point, right? So think of those as like the value added categories, if you will, and then how the processes, get handed off between each one of those specific swim lanes. So that's at its highest level. And then the next layer down, you could actually take and expand that swim lane to get into that next layer of detail. And then, layer 3 is taking one of those specific process touch points and expanding even deeper into the very specific handoffs, documentation, tools that get utilized, all of that. So again, varying degrees of what are we trying to capture, and ultimately, though, asking or answering the question of like, what are we really trying to do here? Like, why are we wanting to capture this thing to begin with, and how are we going to utilize that capturing of the thing, right? The current state to ultimately devise and move towards your future state. So how can business mapping tools facilitate better communication and collaboration in a team? Again, this works very well in those cross-functional situations. So if you think about needing to bring together, let's say an equality initiative, needing to bring together probably finance, operations, quality department, utilizing a process mapping activity and tool will allow you to kind of not just bring all of the parties together, talk through the current state, what's happening. It generally helps to facilitate better kind of questions and conversations across those folks, right? So as you're documenting what happens, somebody, inevitably from a different department will chime in or ask a question like, well, why are we doing that? Right. So it gives you these different opportunities to expand on the conversation, to generate additional ideas as you move towards that future state, creating that future state and ultimately implementing that future state. Can small businesses benefit from investing in mapping software? Certainly they can, but to be perfectly honest, again, I'm a huge fan of simplicity, right? And the simplest thing from a process mapping perspective is to literally find the biggest blank wall you can, grab a bunch of different colored sticky notes or Post-it notes, grab some Sharpie markers, and start literally going to town, right? Like writing a touch point on a sticky note and then popping it right on the wall. I've done lots and lots of improvement activities this way. So it certainly works. It's certainly easy. It makes it kind of fun and interactive, especially when you have more people contributing and somebody facilitating an event like that. And again, from a value stream map perspective, grab a legal pad, right? Like everybody has those lying around. Grab a legal pad and a pencil and, start working through documenting that. And in either case, you can always get it into a more collaborative tool or environment. I would not spend a ton of money investing in tools, to help you do this. This is not, again, love AI, right? And all kinds of fun stuff you can do with that. But this is not a task that I would leave to artificial intelligence. You need actual intelligence. You need collective brain power of the people that are not just closest and doing the work, but people adjacent to that, right? So that's where your biggest benefit will come from investing in mapping. Right? Not mapping software specifically, but the mapping activity, that's where the biggest bang for your buck will come, is bringing people together and collaborating, using their collective brain power to identify and ultimately improve on the things that you guys are already doing. So what are the cost considerations for best business process mapping tools? Again, unpack this just a little bit ago already. Most of the tools are kind of in the same ballpark. They're not significant, a significant investment. But again, doing these things manually often lead to better results quicker anyway. So I would for sure be starting there before I would be spending any, amount of money on these tools from a subscription basis. So I think you will certainly get more benefit out of it from that than going the other route right out of the gate. So hope you've enjoyed this episode and unpacking the best business mapping tools. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Would love to continue the conversation. As a reminder, the solo episodes are an extension of our Business System Saturday newsletter. So that goes out every week, Saturday morning, sometime around 9:30, 10 o'clock Eastern time. And it's totally free to subscribe. You can also read each one of these on the website as well. Hope you have a fantastic week and catch you on the next episode. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for listening today. If we brought you any value, please rate, subscribe, and share our podcast. Also, be sure to connect with us on social media by searching @The Crysler Club. Until next week, I'm your host, Dave Crysler.